Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mark Wallace and Charles Thomas. We are coming at you live on Monday night to radio, and we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter, and iHeartRadio. Good evening, Charles. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing pretty good, man. I got a little microphone issues, but you're still playing the theme music, right?
Yeah, it's going to be fading out.
Good, 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 good. I got little audio issues here, but I'll be all right. I'll be all right. Good to see you again, my friend.
Man, it's good to see you. It's good to see you, my friend. We got a good evening ahead of us, but before we do anything, last week I wasn't able to do it, but I certainly want to acknowledge this evening the passing of Dr. Martin Luther King's youngest son, Dexter Scott King, who made his transition last Sunday. But we were not allowed to say anything because the family needed to make sure that they had gotten in contact with all of the family members. That's why it didn't go public until Tuesday. So we were not able to make that acknowledgement, but I certainly wanted to make that acknowledgement tonight before we went any further.
Yes, he was a very important person in terms of preserving his late father's legacy. When people wanted to use images of Martin Luther King Jr., they had to go through him. He was quite busy over these past, what would it be now, 45, 55 years. Very busy man, because again, he was in charge of so much that had to do with the image and likeness of his father. Many people tried to exploit that, of course, and he was in the position where he had to protect the family name.
Absolutely. And, you know, he was the one who most physically favored Dr. King in his younger days. And oddly enough, there was another story that had come out. It went viral. Some young man who was I believe he was at a Baltimore Ravens football game or something, and somebody caught him in the audience that his image favored Dr. King, and it just went viral. And of course, the King family had a little fun with that. But you know, our hearts and our prayers go out to the King family, as they obviously have experienced yet another loss, because Coretta Scott King made her transition a few years ago. I think it's been about 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, he died relatively young. I mean, it was
62.
62, exactly.
Yeah, 62 years of age. Yeah. So, all right. Well, listen, we, as I said last week, we have a special guest that is joining us tonight. Her name is Larecia Tucker for Cook County Board of Review. We talked about this a little bit. Larecia is a United States Army veteran who brings a strong sense of discipline and dedication to her work. She is highly qualified professional with extensive experience in the field of property assessment and insurance. She is a certified as an assessor for the state of Illinois, and currently holds the position of assessor of clerk. And we're going to be talking with her right now. And Larecia is joining us right now. Welcome to the program. Thank you for being
Good
How are
evening.
you?
Well, thank you so much for being here with us. Now, ordinarily, the seat that you are running for would not be a seat that is most exciting on the ballot, because most people don't even know what it is. So would you just kind of start out and telling us what, first of all, you're the assessor. What locale are you the assessor in? And then what does an assessor do?
I am actually the assessor clerk for Rich Township Assessor's Office. Sam Brown is the assessor, but that mostly just entails what the assessor in Cook County does, except the reassessments dealing with exemptions and appeals. But for the township assessors, they deal with the Board of Review appeals and the assessor appeals. and other day-to-day operations.
All
Okay.
right.
So
And
with a board of review, they just deal only with appeals. They don't deal with any kind of reassessments or taxes or anything. They just deal with the appeals. So first the assessor appeals happen, and then it's sent over to the board of review where people can appeal again.
I mean, you live in an area has had property tax increases,
Oh yes.
incredible
Yes.
property tax increases over the past 20, 25 years. And it also happens to be the place where a great many Black people are moving at this
Yes.
point, and we're carrying the brunt of,
Yes.
of the taxation. Why is that happening, generally speaking?
Um, it appears, especially with the appeals, um, well, that's for all the residents of Cook County, actually. But for down here, it's mostly because there's no industry. Um, I, I am hoping that we're able to start giving incentives to come out here, but most businesses do not want to come out here because there's no incentives. And so there's no way of trying to get offset with taxes for the residents. But mostly with the appeals, it has appeared that most of the appeals that are favorable have been for the big corporations, the big businesses. So when they get their taxes lowered, the remainder of the taxes have to go somewhere. And so it goes to the residents.
And when you say businesses, big
Big
corporations,
businesses like the Trump Towers, stuff like that. It's
oh,
mostly
really?
downtown. Yeah.
So the downtown businesses and the tax relief that they might get affects you way out
Yeah.
there in Rich
Well,
Township.
the taxes, yeah, it's still Cook County. So the taxes, the remainder of the taxes have to go somewhere.
So why
And
aren't they going to the North Shore or to downtown or to the Andersonville or Roscoe Village?
well, it's divided up over all the residents of Cook County. It's just not for District 3. But it appears that most of the time with the border review, the biggest breaks that are happening are the people that are on the loop area in that downtown area, the South Shore area, not South Shore, but the Lake Shore area for the big corporations.
So so for example, again, because most property owners, most homeowners, they just see their taxes going up. And when they see their taxes going up, the first place that they point to is the assessor. They're saying that the
Hmm.
assessor is raising our taxes. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the assessor is raising their taxes. What it means is that somebody, a property owner downtown, one of the rich property owners, or several of them downtown, have appealed, and they have won on their appeal, and so they've gotten their taxes lowered. So they get that break, but the difference of whatever that is split up over the homeowners for the rest of the district,
That's correct.
or Cook County have the burden. So when you receive your tax bill, you see an increase in your tax bill, not because your tax rate has going up, but because you have to
That
share
could
part of the
affect it
burden.
too, though, because the tax rates are different every year. The state equalizer is different every year. So that could be a part of it. And like we had a reassessment just last year, which you said it did go up quite a bit, but now it is fairly in line. A lot of people were complaining that they weren't fairly in line, and now that they are, and now they're upset.
But
Um,
excuse me, can I ask a question real
mhm.
quickly? If in fact the entire county, these assessments or lowering them, raising them, whatever, affects the entire county, why have the south suburbs seemingly been affected
Yeah.
more so than the rest of the county?
I just think mostly, and that's just me, I don't know for sure, mostly because there's nothing out here.
But there's
There's
stuff
no
downtown still.
But there's nothing in the south suburbs
But
really to even help that either.
so what you have in the south suburbs affects only the south suburbs, or does that even affect the entire county?
And then that also has to do with because everyone down here has different tax rates also. So that brings in an account also. Um, Like, for instance, Park Forest tax rate is 47%.
Okay.
Chicago Heights is 20%.
So those are
Isn't
locally
Park
driven.
Forest
I'm sorry?
isn't Park Forest the highest
Yes.
assessed
Yes.
village in the state of
Yes.
Illinois?
Yes.
It's the highest assessed state. So the assessment rates are, who determines the assessment rate for the particular village?
That comes out, I think it's from the assessor's office, or they come together to figure that out. But board of review, no, not at all. But I'm not sure. I would have to ask about that. Um, it is in the assessor's department.
Okay, so I want to kind of shift over to the board of review, since that's the office that you're running for. So we get our property taxes and we appeal our property taxes, and the assessor evaluates that appeal, and the assessor makes a determination on that appeal. And if the assessor's office denies that appeal, um, that appeal, then you can appeal that to the board of review.
You
Correct?
can appeal it if it is rejected or not. So if you do get a reduction for the assessor appeal, you can appeal again with the board of review, and you might get another reduction.
So if you're not satisfied with the reduction that you got from the assessor, you can go to the board of review and say, hey, basically, I think that my taxes should be lower
Yes.
than what the assessor said.
Yes.
So there was a situation, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, some years ago. Maybe it's been whenever it was that Walmart came to Country Club Hills, I believe it was. And there was this special assessment that the homeowners got, and it was ranging anywhere from $10 to $15 to $20,000, depending upon their particular home. But I had a lot of those people had come because they couldn't just afford it. And many of those people ended up walking away from their properties. So why is it that a company as wealthy as Walmart is, why do they need to be given the kinds of incentives that other companies are not getting in the areas of the South suburbs?
I think Amazon also has that also in Madison. I honestly, I wish I knew. I don't have the ins and outs of that yet, but I do know what you're talking about, because it's the same thing that happened when they were in Homewood, and they're in Olympia Fields right now. And a lot of people in Olympia Fields did not want them there because of the so-called incentive. It really wasn't going to help them. It helped the company in their tax situation, but it didn't help the residents at all, which to me would be a problem. But how to alleviate that, I don't know. I think that's mostly between the presidents, mayors of the city, and the corporation.
So how does the board of review play a role in that?
That I would have to. I know. I'm honestly not sure. Because they might, if they don't own the land and own the building, I think it would be different, and it would not be per se to Walmart, but to somebody else if they don't own it.
So
Right,
what
because
is
a lot of these corporations like Walmart or McDonald's, some of them, they
They're
lease
leasing.
the land
Mhm.
from the owners and they build a structure on it.
Right.
So there's a different taxation on that
And how it works
on
out.
that parcel, right?
Yeah. So the appeal part, I don't know how that works.
So let's cut to the chase here. What are you going to do that isn't being done now, or what will you do better than what's being done now?
First of all, transparency. We know nothing what's going on in District 3. Nobody has known in regards to the appeals, the ins, outs, anything. In regards to community outreach. as I do my walk arounds, talk to people, they have no, some people I talked to just this past weekend knew nothing about a border review. And to me, that's not acceptable. Need to go out to these communities, explain to them how important it is, what they need to do, how they can do it, where they can go. Um, Also, in regards to the contributions that are being accepted from the appeal attorneys, which is a conflict because those appeal attorneys are going right back to you trying to get an appeal. There, no one should receive any type of money from them.
That's going on right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Do
So
you
the
have
so
any,
the
do you have any examples of that
What do you
in,
mean?
in particular as it applies to your opponent or the
Yes.
incumbent?
80% of his contributions are from appeal attorneys.
And your opponent in this race is
Larry Rogers. He's an
Larry.
incumbent, 20 years. And yeah,
And you're saying that he's taking money from lawyers who will appear before the board, trying to get assessments lowered for some of their clients.
that's correct.
Hmm. We have to get him
and
in here, Mark.
well, listen, for transparency, Charles and I, we really believe in transparency, and we've talked about this issue on a couple of occasions, and I know more about it because it's what I do for a living in real estate, but more so understanding how the southern suburbs and Black communities in particular
Don't
have
know.
been the victims
Mhm.
of paying for somebody else to have a steak dinner on, largely
You're
working
right.
class and poorer
Right.
people, right? So, and how will you, before I get into that, how will you reverse the course of what's been happening if you are elected to that seat?
Well, it is going to take some time, and I've been telling people that as I go out and tell them it's not going to happen overnight. But I plan to get out to even to the west suburbs that have had that, one on one or whatever with him, or his people. Just talking to them, answering any questions, going out there when it is the border review time, the appeal time, so that maybe we can get some done right then, or just to explain to them and let them know how important that is. It is to do these appeals. Um, that's the biggest thing for me is getting the community outreach to them and getting any kind of I would love to start a newsletter for them, get some type of website for them to ask any questions or um, to know where I'm going to be at so that maybe if they want to come out to ask questions or do anything that they're able to do that. But the biggest thing for the community is community outreach.
You say that's the biggest thing, but it seems to me that are you making a pledge not to take money
Yes,
from anybody
I will
who
not be. I have
says,
not,
well,
and I won't be.
this is central to your campaign then.
Yes, very much.
Okay, so I understand the community outreach because, in fairness, Larry Rogers, he goes out and he does these community outreach events as well. What I'm speaking about is more nuance. What I'm speaking about in terms of policy
Hmm.
in the position, what would be the policy difference between you and the current holder of that position?
To have a policy. There is no policy right now.
And what would
There
that
is
policy be?
well, that's something that we would all have to agree upon for the border review commissioners and everything. But right now there is nothing stating how the appeals should work, how they should be done for each and every home, commercial, everything. There is nothing out there.
So
So
you're saying that they just decide on who they want to give um,
that's how it appears because there's no
favor
guideline.
to or not?
And that's me from talking to other board of review commissioners. They have no guidelines. The computer
Well,
system is very old, and so it doesn't communicate with the treasurer, the assessor, or the clerk's office. Um, and so every when things are sent over to the board of review, there's a lot of bugs in it. Everything like this time around, as we were doing the board of review appeals, it was disastrous.
and how many members are there, or commissioners, I should say, not members, but commissioners, are there on the board of review?
3.
That there are 3 people who decide on all of these appeals.
Well,
And
no,
how
they
long?
have their own people working on the appeals too. I can't remember what they're called. But they have like a couple or like 3 or 4 on each for each commissioner, and they do the appeals. But the big problem is that if one of those people come in and don't know how to do it, there's no guidelines. There's no type of rules or anything. Don't do this or do it this way. There's nothing there for them to have some type of thing to go off of.
You're running in the March primary. That's true.
Yes. Yes.
And you're running as a Democrat.
Yes.
And the Democrat then in the fall faces a Republican. Is
No,
that
there's
how it
no
works?
Republican running. It's
So
only us two.
so the Democrat will win
Hmm.
no matter what. And
Yes.
has Mr. Rogers been endorsed by the party?
Yeah, of course.
Of course, I get it.
Right, right, right. But more so, more so than this, again, because I think that this is a very critical race, because when it comes to property tax, when the bills come out, that's when people are at their loudest.
Yes.
But not understanding the people who impact those those bills um, is unfortunate, and we're
Right.
hoping that we can influence some change there. So, and obviously he's been endorsed by the party, and that's an uphill battle for you
Mhm.
to um, to run against. So, what is your message to people? Because again, Black people in particular, because we're talking to mostly Black people are really tired of hearing politicians,
Mhm.
make speeches and talk about flowery things like, granted, I can appreciate outreach, but they want some meat and potatoes, something that they can
I
see,
understand.
feel, and taste. So, what is Miss Tucker going to offer to people that they could have confidence in, that at some point they're going to see some relief of paying for somebody else's steak dinner?
Well, my biggest thing would be to them is fairness. It will be fair with the commercial and the residential. There's not going to be a favoritism for either or. Um, and if you start to educate people in what it can help, then that might also help. Receive a lot of phone calls, and people don't know anything, like I said, about the border review. And so, what I usually try and do is just educate them on that and just kind of really emphasize that do it. It's just not for the people up north. It can be down here too. A lot of us don't know about it. So that's the first big thing that needs to be said and
Can
done
I
is let them know.
I have a question, and it's something that Mark and I talk about quite a bit on this program. How difficult is it for you to run against an endorsed party candidate? Give us a feel for what that's like, because Mark and I would like to see a lot more people do what you're doing. But tell us how difficult it is. What are the roadblocks that you face right now?
At first, I was a nervous wreck, to be honest, because again, incumbent, lots of money, 20 years. But I have a great support system, and in just helping me get empowered and know that I can do a better job and know that I could reach those people. Um, so now when people say, well, he has too much money, okay, but money doesn't vote. So I just have to make sure I get myself out there and make sure people understand that I want to help. I
Are
did
you
in this
getting
situation.
any support from any of the elected officials in the Southland or anywhere for that matter in Cook County?
Yeah, I have some mayors and some trustees and some school board members and Assessor Kagi. I know a lot of people have been talking about that and keep saying, well, he's put in half of your money. No, he hasn't.
Can you tell us who some of those people might be?
I'm trying to, and then I just got endorsed by the People's Lobby and Mayor Thompson from Dixmoor, and I'm trying to remember that other one. I'll have to look that up. But
Stephanie Cora from
yes,
Broadview,
yes, thank you.
that you got an endorsement from there.
Just lately,
Um,
Vote Guts, North, even though they're not in my district, but they really wanted to help me. The Northside Democracy of America, the former clerk, David Orr, and then some
Mhm.
former aldermen and some ward committeemen.
okay, so you don't have a lot of money,
Mm,
or certainly don't have near the kinds of contributions that the current board of review um, person. Now, the board of review is set up in how many different districts? There's 3 different districts.
yes,
All right. So, and the third district encumbers how, what's the landscape of the third district? Where does that cover?
all of the south suburbs, and that is also including Cook County for Orland Park, Tinley Park, Palos, Lamont, and then there is also the south side of Chicago. I think it's like 2 wards of the west side, and then the west suburbs, Maywood, Forest Park, Oak Park, those up there, Broadview, things like that. So it's quite large, and I have been the only parts I haven't touched on yet are um, the Orland Park area, things like that. But I'm trying to figure out how to do that out there too.
Well, I know that in Orland Park, because I've sold a few properties out in Orland Park, and relatively speaking, in those areas, the the taxes are not as bad or as high as they are in other places that have lower property values, like Park Forest,
Yes.
in other areas to the east. Um, so, what? Why is that? Or is this process that, are they getting more favor, or is it equally distributed once somebody gets a tax reduction on, say, one of those properties downtown? Is that equally distributed amongst all of the residents or the property owners in the third, or is it some?
And that is a question that I would need to find out more on. That is a good question. And I hope that it is not like that. Um, but that is a question that I need to get more information on.
So in this process, there are 3 commissioners on the board of review. Somebody brings an appeal.
Hmm.
How, what has to be the compromise, or the comprise the vote in order for somebody to be successful at the board of review?
Well, I know like when we get the paperwork together at Ridge Township, we send over like maybe 5 homes that is less per square footage than what we try to anyway, than what the resident is. And so even though I don't know exactly how they do it, But I know they look at all that to see about what has sold in the area, the square footage, and they usually derive it from that. How they per se figure it out, I don't know that because I don't know their process and how to do that. I've honestly actually tried to find out from like different areas with border review, but Cook County is pretty much the only area for the border review that's elected, not appointed. So I can't even go off of somebody else and how they do it because they're appointed and it's done differently.
So how will you communicate to the voters that you are the better choice for the residents or the property owners in Cook County than the current commissioner?
First of all, because I know that I am going to be fair about the whole process. That's just hands down with me.
Well, fair in the process is that means that rich property owners downtown who buy a property for $500 million are not going to be able to come in 6 months or a year later and say that this property is now worth $250 million
That's right.
and gets that assessment. How will you be able to stop that?
Because I would be the one able to say that it is assessed at that property. So because I'll be the one that has to decide it. I think I would be the last one that has to decide it. So it would be up to me if it's valued at 5 million. I'm not going to let it or anyone else say that it's valued at 2.5 million.
But there's two other commissioners there. What if the two other commissioners are not don't side with you?
Then we have a problem. Yes, there would be a problem. But I already know one of the commissioners are in the reform area that is aligning to what I'm trying to do also.
Okay. Would you work for a system where people could not, in the real estate industry, could not make contributions to board of review commissioners, and even if it means going to the state to get some kind of prohibition against that? Would that be part of your program? Since
that
you are
actually
going
sounds great. No one should receive money from anyone that you are going to be coming up to them to appeal your taxes. If they're in for appeals, why would I want to have them come in front of me wanting to appeal, and then they're going to want something from me? There's just no way.
Now that seems absolutely like something that we should do. But I mean, in Illinois, of course,
I know
it is legal to do that.
I know.
Just as
He has been reprimanded by the inspector general lots of times for that action, but he doesn't want to change it.
When you're saying he doesn't want to change it, well, who does the board of review beside the voters? Who are they responsible to? Is there some sort of
heard? Nothing. No one. Actually, the board of review is the only one out there that also the employees have no union.
And how many employees are in the board of review?
That I am not honestly for sure. But I would love to help them get unionized also. The assessor's office is unionized, the treasurer's, the clerk's office, but the board of review is not.
Well, so when you have a board of review, since there are 3 commissioners, is there an actual hearing that comes before the 3 of you that attorneys have to appeal to you or argue before you on a particular appeal? Or do they just turn in paperwork and you review it and you all discuss it? How does that work?
They turn in paperwork, and if it is rejected, they have a choice of going down to Springfield. So that's when they would do, that I know of, would do an in-person thing, but they would have to go to Springfield. And
So
that's easy for the residents. They can appeal, and they would end up going to Springfield, but they would have to get an attorney.
Okay. And who do they go before in Springfield?
I'll have to look at my paper.
More,
I just know it's in Springfield. I do know that.
let me guess. More Democrat politicians.
Most likely.
That's who they're going to go to. That's who they're going to appear before. I
Yeah,
mean,
most likely.
it happens all over the state. I mean, you have this system where you can people that unions, for instance, they can make campaign contributions to the politicians who are going to make decisions about their contracts. But that's Illinois.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine says Illinois isn't broke, talking about its financial situation. Illinois is fixed.
I can believe that.
And you're trying to change it. And
I would love to. I really would. Like I said, I have been in that predicament in regards to taxes. My family and I moved out of Park Forest because it was ridiculous.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I mean, I just recently had a property there that I had to give up $67,000 in order for the purchaser of the homeowner to just qualify to purchase it, because it was just the taxes are $9,000 a year.
Yeah.
I ended up having to sell the property for $125,000 just to be rid of it, for them to be able to afford it. And here it is, Park Forest is not that large. And I understand, the whole idea that there is not any industry because of the incentives. That needs to change so they can expand the tax base. But
I think. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were speaking.
But I think that it is important. Listen, I'm a Democrat. I'm a registered Democrat, and I am fed up with the same crop of people. And I believe that we have to till the ground and turn over all of those that are in this system. But we have to have a base to be able to do that.
It's really interesting, Mark. Just so that our viewers know, this whole business of reducing someone's property taxes or assessments was the principal business of Mike Madigan, the one who's about to go on trial.
He's under that regime.
The principal business of Ed Burke.
He's under that regime too.
John Cullerton, who used to be the Senate president, he dabbled in this stuff. This is a huge business for these corrupt Democrat politicians in Illinois. That's why I've washed my hands of the party, because they allow this to go on. This is who they are. This is who they are. And we as Black people continually go out and give them 95% of our vote.
And that is one thing I have said.
It's really got to stop.
What has to happen is we have to stop allowing for them to dictate to us. I think that this is more of that we are allowing people to corrupt the democratic process. And if there are corrupt Democrats, then we need to get rid of corrupt Democrats. If there's corrupt Republicans, we need to get rid of corrupt Republicans. It is the corruption that we have to deal with. It is not so much that it's a D or an R, but we have to get. Let me finish, Charles.
Everything's D in Illinois.
Well, we can have that conversation on many different fronts depending upon the locale. My point is that we who give ourselves, which is why I believe that it's incumbent upon us to organize ourselves in a fashion so that we can bring in a person like you that we might want, that doesn't have a lot of money, to run up against the establishment. If the establishment person, whoever that might be, is disadvantaging our community. Now, I'm trying to stay objective here, but it's kind of hard for me to do that on some level. But I happen to know Larry Rogers Jr., and at one time I supported Larry Rogers Jr., but I think that Larry Rogers Jr. has become a part of that corruption, a
Yes.
part of that corruption, that the dollars speak louder than what he should be doing for the people, and we end up being the people who foot that bill.
Yeah.
So, I believe that we have to make that change. That's why I believe your race, the race that you're in, is so important, and we need to do all that we can to make people aware of what's happening. And I think that you, as a candidate, you have to come up with a strategy to make this as simple as possible to people, especially homeowners, and where you're going around to talk to people as to why this is important. And that messaging is critical, because you don't have the money to run against them. I'm going to support you. But I think that you have to get the message right.
Yeah.
You've got to get the message right in order for people to understand why you would be the better choice.
I agree.
Yeah, for the record, I don't know any detail about Larry Rogers Jr., who I've known for many years. I don't have any detail about who he's taking money from, or for that matter, his record specifically as it applies to the Board of Review and what he's been doing over there. But I do appreciate the fact that you're challenging the establishment, and everybody should give you a very close look. Uh, and you've made some pledges here tonight about not taking money from
That's
real
been my
estate
number one pledge
attorneys.
from the beginning.
Yeah, and the fact I think I heard you say that you would like to see laws passed by this legislature
So
and
even if I don't get it,
signed
he
by the
can't do it.
governor, and
Yes.
signed by the governor, to forbid by law taking contributions, campaign contributions, from people who are going to appear before you during the course of your election, of your term. I think that's logical. That's fair. That's common sense. Other states do it that way, but Illinois doesn't. And I don't see any movement on the part of anybody in Springfield to change
Yeah.
these rules.
And it definitely needs to be.
All right. Well, listen, Larecia Tucker, we certainly thank you for coming in. We wish you all the best, and I'm sure that we will be in contact. You and I will be in contact going down the road. We're going to try to see if we can't get Larry Rogers to come on. But let me ask you this: speaking of that, Charles mentioned this. He says he doesn't know the details. We don't know the details, but you said that he receives 80% of his money from those attorneys. There are D2s that tell us just how much money and where they come from. Do you have those D2s, or have you seen the D2s?
My campaign, I personally have not, honestly. My campaign has. And there's actually been people that have been put in jail that has worked under him also.
Yeah, and there's also it's very easy to hide a donor's identity.
Yeah,
in the
you
system
can.
that
There's
they have.
I
It's
have
very
learned.
easy to do it.
I'm hearing that there's different ways that you can do it and go through different situations in giving the money.
That's why whenever I take a campaign contribution, I will put my name there, because I don't see any point in playing cat and mouse with people. That does, and then I take heat, of course, but I'll take the heat.
Well, first of all, if you've got to hide it, then you're sending a message to us already
Agreed.
that we should, look out, because there's something else that's coming.
But
If you
most people
can't
do
be
hide it.
right,
Most of them
if
do
you
hide
can't
it.
be, yeah. So, all right, Larecia Tucker, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate that you coming on to be with us. How can people get more information about your campaign? Where can they go?
You can go to my website. It's lareciatucker.com, and it'll have more about me on there. in how you're able to help financially volunteering. Everything and anything is appreciated.
All right. Thank you very much, Larecia Tucker.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
Thank
much.
you
you.
so much. We appreciate it. All right. Yeah, Charles, listen, that's going to be it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be an uphill battle because, like I said, it's not one of those areas that people tend to pay a lot of attention to. But it's a very important race. It's a very, very important race. And I just happen to know, based on my integral review of that position for the last several years, that there are people who are having a lot of steak dinners on our dime.
Yep, and have been doing it for a long time. Hey man,
Yep.
can I move on to another subject?
Yep.
I saw this very interesting video that a friend of mine sent to me. I think it was yesterday that it arrived, and it was video of 79th and Essex in South Shore. You familiar with that area?
I'm very familiar with it. I
Okay,
lived there for 23 years.
I knew that. Now, the pictures, the video, I don't know if you've seen it or not. It was of Venezuelan migrants cleaning up the street. They were picking up all the trash, basura, as they say in Spanish, picking it up, cleaning the block of Essex between 79th and 80th, or 78th and 79th. I'm not sure about that because I saw the video. They were out there, men, women, and children, appeared to be a dozen, 20 or so, cleaning the street. Wow. There was a voice on it saying that these people had been accused of breaking into some place. Actually, they were living there. And as a gesture, they went out the next day and they picked up all the trash. You know how people will, get a bag of chicken or something, they finish it in the car and throw it out the side. Happens a lot in certain neighborhoods. But so they were cleaning it. Amazing.
So I'm glad
Um,
somebody was cleaning it up.
Absolutely. And
I'm
the
glad somebody
other,
was cleaning it up. And if they were living in a building, I used to own a building at 78th in Essex, and it was a block for a long time, many years back, that a black family owned quite a bit of the property on both sides of the streets. Unfortunately, the father died, and they lost most of the property. There has been a lot of vacant property on that particular block. It has been a really challenging area. Um, over in There's like two or three streets that it's been really, really challenging over there. So I can certainly believe there's a building in the middle of that block that had been vacant for years. And that could be one of the buildings that maybe they have been living in.
now
That's why.
let me connect some more dots here.
Yeah.
Just reading the news, I mean, I'm sort of a news junkie. I kind of read all the time. There was a murder in Auburn, Gresham, and the suspect is a Venezuelan immigrant. He shot another Venezuelan immigrant, and there was maybe some other people involved. There was a beef, a dispute. People have them all the time, and unfortunately, in our country, in our city, gunfire erupts. And I know you have a lot of opinions about that, but this point that I'm making isn't about that. But it was Auburn Gresham, Venezuelans getting into it, shooting, somebody dies, somebody's arrested. So what? Then there was a third incident I read about. There was a housing code violation at a property in Woodlawn. And the property, the story went on to say, it was being used by Venezuelan migrants. And it occurred to me that people are leaving the shelters, they're leaving the police stations or the airport or whatever, and they're moving into neighborhoods that historically are right, or I should say, right now, are settled by predominantly Black residents. 35,000 people have arrived. Are they all or most resettling in Black neighborhoods? And what happens to the people who are there? Particularly, many of these people, these migrants, are they're being subsidized to whatever extent right now, so they can pay rents that maybe people can't pay who normally might want to move into those areas. But I'm telling you, I mean, I know that you're involved a lot with property, but there are 35,000 people in the city already who need shelter. And as they move from the shelters into the neighborhoods, they're moving into Black neighborhoods. Are they replacing Black people in those wards? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I don't think that that they're certainly replacing Black people, but I think that what there's some opportunity that can be gained if there are people who are willing to sit down, roll up their sleeves, and come up with some creative ideas that could benefit the Black community from a lot of the blight that we see with within certain areas that have been just neglected for long periods of time. Um, but I don't believe that they're replacing Black people. I think that what they're doing is they're going to property or going to areas where property is, for all intents and purposes, has just been abandoned, unused, unrepaired for a number of reasons, and they're finding shelter there. It's in some of these properties, but the problem is that that's not necessarily safe either. So I just think that there's a missed opportunity that the powers that be get so insulated in their areas that they don't come out to see just what's going on in these areas, or to even think outside of the box at how can we turn situations that are challenging into in situations that are not so challenging. Because the people who are getting the subsidized rent, you're only getting 6 months of subsidized rent for a migrant, and then you might be eligible for another 3 months depending, but that is it. At the end of that period, as a landlord, you don't get that subsidy. So it is up to the asylum seekers to have found employment so that they could either continue to pay the rent, but then, or you have to, as a landlord, you have to start the process to have those people removed from your properties. But the idea was to give them that support so that in 6 months that they would be able to have work permits, be able to go out, get a job so that they could afford to pay the rent. Now, I've had conversations with 2 or 3 people who have rented property to them, and they are now getting paid by the tenant. So we're going to see how this works out, how bad it gets, or if it doesn't get bad over the next 6
Okay.
months.
Yes, I got to think. I would. I know, really, these people are going to. They're going to do fine. Also, keep in mind that over the past 20 years, the Black population of Chicago has fallen dramatically. So, in fact, these new arrivals are certainly going to replace the people who have left the city. That first, but I got to believe that with as many jobs, particularly entry level jobs on the low end, as soon as these people become proficient enough in with English, they're going to take a lot of these jobs, and they're going to be in these neighborhoods. And these neighborhoods that were black, predominantly black, are not going to be predominantly black moving forward. I think we're witnessing a major change in the city of Chicago, and the movement of people. They're going to where they can afford, and that means they're going into areas that have the lowest rents. That's a no brainer. And many of those areas are areas where black people live, and black people, I think, are going to be in neighborhoods that are no longer going to be black neighborhoods. They're going to be Latino and black neighborhoods, and maybe ultimately all Latino neighborhoods. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I just think that people need to be aware. They need to connect the dots from what's going on on the border to what you see at 79th and Essex, or in Woodlawn, or in Auburn Gresham. It's happening. Don't get caught 5 years from now. Oh my God. No, it's happening right now.
Well, I don't think that we're going to be 5 years from now where there's going to be an oh my God, or we're going to look around and see that um, these largely black lived communities are something different. If we have a few other people in there, they were saying this about Asians 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. They were saying that about Asians on the South, because we had a few Asian people that had moved in on the South side of Chicago. And then, there was this, thrusting, oh, well, the Asians are going to take over the communities. I just sort of pass over that sort of stuff, because that's not what I see happening.
You've been to Bridgeport lately? The
Yes.
Chinatown has moved south into Bridgeport. You go to where the Ickes homes used to be, about 26th, 27th south,
Yeah.
along State Street.
Yes.
Asians are moving in. You look at what is that big apartment building? Oh boy, it's right there at State and Cermak. It's an apartment building there. I can't remember. It's virtually.
You're talking about the round building?
Yeah, it's all Asian now.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. No. Asians are the fastest growing minority group, if you will, in Chicago. Asians. The city is changing around us, and we just have to deal with it. And we're losing space. We're losing real estate. They're gaining it.
Well, yeah. Well, of course, we certainly are losing some real estate, but there are black people who are coming back to the South Side, because that's who I sell property to. So,
Mhm.
and most of my colleagues sell property to black people on the South Side. So, for this idea that black people are leaving is just not simply not the case. There are
Well,
black
yeah.
people.
What does the census say? The census says we've lost 200 to
Yeah, but the census,
250,000 black people in the last 20 years. The census
yeah,
says
but
that.
there are a
I'm
lot of
wrong.
yeah, but there's a lot of
Wrong?
black people. There's a lot of black people who don't fill out the census, so you
Okay,
can't
fine, fine.
you
If
can't
that
go by.
I'm going by, but I'm going by census numbers.
Well,
You can
we've
go
been
by
losing population.
you're in real estate. You know better than me. You say you got your numbers. I just go by what the census says.
No, I
That's
get
all I
that,
can do.
but we've been losing populations going back 30 years, Chicago, and even before
Okay.
that, we've been losing population. So as we lose population, people come in. There are people coming in that are black that are not necessarily moving south. They move north. They move north. So the numbers are here, there, whatever. I don't think that there is drastic, or is certainly to where we're going to be turning over neighborhoods, um, in our lifetime. I'll put it that way, in our lifetime, to where it's going to be some other community.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
think
I mean,
what we,
it's just something to watch. I mean, it was just an observation that I made connecting some dots through news stories about where people are living. We hear a lot about people living in shelters and police stations at the airport, where, by the way, the numbers are going up again. But these people are moving into the city, and the places where they're going are places that are associated, at least in recent times, with black folks. And I just thought I'd throw it out there. What else is new, my man?
Alabama just executed a man by nitrogen gas last Thursday,
Really? Mm.
for the first time. And this was a man that they tried to execute before by lethal injection, and it didn't work. And so they went to this nitrogen gas, which the reports that came from the witnesses who saw this just said it was horrific.
Really?
It was
Like what
it was
happened?
it was just inhumane. That it took a long time for this man to die. They saw him sitting there. He was convulsing, and all kinds of stuff coming out of his
Really?
mouth,
Whoa.
and it was just inhumane, uh
Mm-hmm.
absolutely inhumane. And it, it it just baffles me that
And
all of these
he's gone now. I mean, it worked. He did.
eventually
Yeah.
eventually yeah, eventually, the suffering, uh they said for several minutes, witnesses that were there just said that it was just a horrific scene.
Mm.
um that you know another botched execution. And I just thought, you know absolutely horrific. And do you know that it cost us more money to execute a person, because most people on death row end up dying waiting to be incarcerated or waiting to be executed.
Most of
And
them?
most of them, like
I didn't know that.
70%. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the statistics show that a great number of them. And it ends up costing us to the tune of about $20 million by the time that we have executed a person, because of all of the appeals and back and forth that has to go through for a person, as opposed to incarcerating somebody for the remainder of their life. We spend almost 10 times the amount pursuing putting people to death. And the statistics show that it's not a deterrent. The states that have the death penalty have a higher murder rate per capita than the states that don't.
Yeah, I would oppose something like nitrogen or electrocution or gas or some other kind of gas, I guess, on a moral basis. I mean, I have a problem with the whole notion of putting people to death. I guess I'm old school to the point where I'm one of those "thou shalt not murder" people. I think we got into it last week because you said something to me about abortion not being mentioned in the Bible. Well, neither is death by nitrogen or death by electrocution or death, one person killing another person. These modern forms of killing people, to me, are irrelevant to the fact that you took another life. And that's where I would be on the whole question of whether or not they should do this to anybody. I mean,
Right.
does the state have the right to take your life? Um, so, what is it? It said it in Exodus, said it in Deuteronomy, thou shalt not kill, murder another person, homicide. It's a moral affront to a lot of people. And I hadn't heard that they tried to do that. But it's awful.
Yeah, it's awful. And then I wish I had my statistics before me, but even uh, the men who have been exonerated from wrongful conviction that have been sentenced to death, 70% of those men, of those people that have been exonerated and been sentenced to death for the death penalty, 70% are overwhelmingly black.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
70%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think that's probably a that's a very believable statistic, given that 70% of the people accused of murder in Chicago, more than 70% are black. So I can see where they would be in that predicament, certainly. And I said accused of murder. I don't know who committed what, but accused of murder, 70% of them, more than 70% of them in the city of Chicago are black. So
well,
if they're,
I'm talking about places like the state of Florida where only,
uh,
uh, 11% of the population is black, and a much smaller number of that are black men, but black men are at 7 times more the rate that are convicted of murder and sentenced to death. And in a place
I
like
can
that,
I can believe that. I can
yeah.
believe that. I
Yeah.
can believe
So
that.
first of all, I think the death penalty should be done away with. And if people who are convicted of murder and those types of crimes should be sentenced to, they should lose their freedom for as long as the person that they've murdered has lost their life. And there, in those cases where people have served, and we see time after time after time now where people have been in prison for 30 years. There was one man who was the longest serving, what was it, 42 years or something like that, that he was in prison, just got out of prison for a crime for which he did not commit. 40, I think it was 43 years that he was incarcerated for a crime that he did not commit. And if you exonerate a person and you have executed them, there's no I'm sorry for that.
No, I mean
You know,
I'm sure there have been thousands, thousands in this country's sordid history where we've had innocent people or people who were executed who did not deserve to be executed, um, even though they may have committed some kind of crime,
right.
but they didn't deserve to be executed for it. I mean, you can go back in the 1930s and 20s and 40s and 50s in this country, and you're going to find thousands of people, the majority of them black people. There's
Yep.
no doubt about that. That's
Yeah.
historic. That's
Yeah.
historic.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, I certainly, hope that some way or another that we come to our senses as a nation of people and do away with that form of so-called punishment. What else is going on in your end?
Oh man, I'm just fascinated by the national political scene at this point and international, because so much is happening right now that in the world where we're really on the brink of some just incredible stuff happening. The presidential race, we really haven't talked about the Iowa caucus or the New Hampshire primary, which I
Yeah.
don't, which I agree with the Democrat Party that your first major test of any candidate should be in a state that offers more diversity than either Iowa or New Hampshire, because I think the racial makeup of the electorate in the United States, or the electorate, is so racially charged that we should look for a place that has more diversity than New Hampshire or Iowa to be the first test. Now, unfortunately, from this reporter, from this citizen's view, to hear some of the rhetoric coming from South Carolina as it applies to Black people is very upsetting, because I don't hear Joe Biden in particular or Jim Clyburn, who is his gatekeeper, talking about issues that really should affect Black people. They're talking about, oh, you better be scared because those white supremacists are coming to get you. That's what Joe said at Emmanuel AME Church, I believe it was about 3 weeks ago. And he said it again over the past weekend where he is campaigning. They aren't talking about substantive issues. They're talking about, uh, aren't you afraid that Trump might get in and put you back in chains? That kind of rhetoric. I'm really, really sick of that. I don't want to hear that anymore. I want to hear about substantive issues that affect Black people in particular. I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing this fear mongering, and I'm hearing it on both sides. Both sides are doing a lot of fear mongering.
I was going to ask you, what substantive
yeah.
issues are you hearing from the other side?
I mean, I hear the border. I hear the border issue. I hear the Ukraine issue.
Well, wait a second. The border issue. Wait a minute. Wait, Charles.
Issue, man.
Wait.
Man. I mean,
Wait.
You asked me a question. I'm trying to answer it. I'm going down the line. I'm going down the line issues
okay, what
that I think
else?
are more important. All right.
What are you hearing?
I went to this foreign wars and the fact that we're shooting at people now. Our country is. I hear about, again, the border, and I hear about the economic situation, and people are struggling with higher prices right now, and it's these are issues that I think we need to really be talking about, as opposed to fears that we might have about each other. We also hear a lot about Mr. Trump's legal problems, which I think are basically a lot of politics more than anything really substantive. He hasn't done anything to me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't get involved in that. I think it's political, and politics are politics. It's going to happen. And I'm sure that if there was a Democrat in a similar situation that Trump is in, and there was a Republican in the White House, he very well could be doing the same thing to that Democrat challenger, because that's politics in the United States, which I think is at a low ebb right now. But there are a lot of things that I think are more important to be talking about than the fear you might have of a white supremacist in the back of a pickup truck coming to get you with a rope or drag you with a chain down the street. I ain't worried about that, quite frankly. I'm really not. But I am worried about the fact that we're shooting at people in Yemen, and that American servicemen are being attacked in the Middle East and killed now, and that we're sending well over $100 billion to a country in Europe, Ukraine, which most people didn't know where it was on the map before we started sending money over there. And the president wants to send more money over there. And I don't understand it. If the Russians attack Lithuania or Poland, do you think I want my grandson going over there to shoot at people because the Russians attack some country in Europe?
Well, if they don't stop Putin from what his mission is, your grandson, if he's in the military,
are you kidding?
Can I respond? If your grandson is in the military, he will be going over there. That's really what is important. That's why I want for them to be successful, because I don't want our troops having to be thrown into another war if this man gets beyond there, because he's not going to stop there. He's going to continue, and then we will be thrown into a war that we have to put our people boots on the ground to be slaughtered. And just like we had these 3 black reservists over in, I guess it was in Yemen, that were killed by a drone attack.
Those were black men?
There were 2 black women and 1 black man.
Whoa!
They were all from Georgia.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, but have
their pictures been on TV yet?
Yes.
Okay.
I saw them for the first time just before we went live. um, before we went live. But I think we need to do everything that we possibly can to de-escalate from having to put our men and women into another protracted war that we just got out of. What that war in Afghanistan was 20 some odd years, in Iraq that we were in that we should never have been in. So it is my hope that that the joint chiefs and the defense secretary and those people who are in charge, and the joint chief who happens to be chairman, who happens to be black, and I didn't even know that, but he happens to be black. And I saw him on Face the Nation this past Sunday. But I hope that we do all that we can to prevent our men and women from having to be put in the throes of another war. That's what I hope that we do. I'm not going to make this political, but here it is. You're talking about the border, that the first $14 billion that this president has asked them to do on border control that they wouldn't do. And now here it is. You have Republicans who have of working with Democrats and coming up with another $13.7 billion. And you have other Republicans say, oh, no, I was just kidding. Don't worry about it. Don't do anything. Allow for them to just flow the fentanyl and everything else over here that everybody's been screaming about for the last 3 years. What hypocrites they are.
Can I talk? Can I talk?
Yeah, you can talk.
I think that's purely what the Republicans are doing is purely political, because they have Joe Biden in an untenable situation, because he's the guy who let 7 million people in. He's the guy that's wearing the jacket for the problem at the border right now. As far as Europe is concerned, you mean to tell me that my black grandsons should go put their lives on the line because Putin attacks Poland? Poland doesn't even allow black people to come into the country. Okay. Lithuania, where's that? Finland? You mean to tell me that my black grandson in the United States, which right now is approaching a point where people of color, as they call them, are the majority in this country, we got to go defend Europe? Why don't we send troops to Africa when they have their little issues over there? Why do we have to send our people to Europe? This is no longer a world dominated by Europe. Get it? It isn't. I don't feel that this country, which is going to be the majority minority, as they say, in 15 to 20 years, has any business trying to defend Europe. European countries have nuclear weapons. Like Trump said, Trump, man, he says so many true things. He says, let the Europeans defend themselves. Yeah. He doesn't say everything true, but he says some true things, like building a wall and cracking down on people coming over the border.
Wait. Building a wall?
Let me finish, Mark. I'll let you finish. Trump did a better job controlling the border than Joe Biden. Trump told Europe, look, we're not going to come over here to defend you. We're not going to spend the majority of our defense budget defending you. You've got money. Defend yourself. Trump said that. I agree with him on that. I absolutely agree with him on that. Europe is not our responsibility. I don't care about Mr. Flint. No. I'm not with that. And let them defend themselves. This is not 1940. This is 2024. And they have to defend themselves. They have nukes. Okay. Russia isn't going to bother them. They got nuclear weapons and delivery systems. Why should we defend them? Because some military industrial complex person wants to make more weapons which haven't worked very well in Ukraine, by the way. So we can buy more weapons to send to them. Come on, man. Connect the dots, dog. Connect the dots. These people are not for you. They're for their rich buddies who are spending all this money. I've said it 1,000 times. you got more in common with that good old boy riding around in the pickup truck in Podunk, Alabama, than you have with these billionaire people, these military industrial people at Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing, all these big companies that are making these weapons. Man, connect the dots.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You say that Trump built a wall. You said he built a
He did.
wall.
He didn't finish it. He couldn't. He
No,
got
no, no.
elected out of office.
Hold on a second. I want you to listen to this. I want you to listen to this because you keep talking about how he was building this fantastic wall. Just take a
On
listen.
January 25th, 2017, Trump signed the executive order to build the wall. The wall, of course, was a big campaign promise of Trump's to make our country more safe. But what it really was to serve as a reminder to all immigrants, but particularly Latinos, that they were not welcome in the United States. Even though Republicans controlled both the House and the Senate for the first 2 years of his presidency, he couldn't get them to agree with each other to appropriate funds. So in December of 2018, his own party shut down the government. It was the longest government shutdown in our history. The shutdown cost the American economy $11 billion. The shutdown ended when Congress passed a budget that had no appropriations for the wall, and Trump signed it. So it was all for nothing. Trump promised to build a wall across the entire border, which is 2,000 miles long. Ultimately, only 47 miles of new wall was ever built. The other 400 miles or so replaced existing borders. Other than a dip at the beginning of the pandemic, the Border Patrol saw illegal crossings continue to go up after the wall was built. Trump is continuing to campaign on his xenophobia. He's dehumanizing immigrants and promising to do more harm to these communities if he becomes president again.
There you go. There's your wall.
Well, okay, fine. I don't. Who is that woman, by the way? I've never seen her before. Who is she?
She is they call her an influencer.
Oh, she's a white liberal influencer. Okay, she loses all credibility. Okay, at this point.
Really? Really? How?
Of course. What did she say that was true? I don't know. I can't.
Are you telling me?
This woman.
Wait a second.
Is she a congresswoman?
Wait. No, hold on a second. Hold on a second, Charles.
Mark, let me finish. Let me just make one.
Well, you just said what did she say was true? Are you saying that what she said was not true?
Let me make one 15-second point. When Trump was president, there was nobody sleeping at the airport, no migrants on buses coming into Chicago, no people who are having this. We weren't having this problem. We weren't spending hundreds of millions of dollars here in Chicago to take care of a migrant population. There was control at the border, particularly related or relative to what's happening right now. That's undeniable. I don't know who that woman was, influencer.
Yeah, I know. I know, Charles. Just because you don't know who they were, you can't deny the information. But what Trump did do, what he did do when he was president, was he lost 2.9 million jobs during his presidency. He increased unemployment by 6.3%, and he added 7.8% to the national debt. These are all facts that you can go and look up. And he contracted the growth by 3.5. I want you to go look them up because it seems that when this information comes out, you don't want to accept those as facts, because when I put information out, that's what I put it out as facts, not opinion, as facts. And then I ask you to go back and then look it up.
I'll look it up. Like she was speaking fact, and you say I have to check her out. I don't know who she is, man. That's all. I thought she was a congresswoman or some kind of government official or some person that had some credibility. An influencer, that's a lot like, I mean, the influencers are all over the place, man. They're all, they lie. Some tell the truth.
No.
A lot of them lie. A lot of
Charles,
them make stuff up.
All I want you to do, as you said, all I want you to do. Yeah, I don't have to give you anything better than that. What you have to do, is, so since you're not accepting it as truth, if you're not accepting it as truth, and I'm telling you that the information is there, disprove it.
I'll go find it, man.
Disprove it.
I will go look. I'll go look for it. I'd never seen the woman. I don't know where she came from, That's what I'm saying. I'll have to check that out. Plus, it wasn't very impressive anyway. But even what she was saying
It
wasn't
doesn't have to be
impressive.
impressive.
Even if it is
It doesn't
true,
have to be impressive. The facts, the
it didn't
facts are
impress me.
there.
It
The
didn't impress me.
facts are
The
there
facts
for
are
you
there.
because
Go
you
to
keep talking
O'Hare.
about,
Go
you
to O'Hare,
always
Mark.
talk about, you
Mark, you want me to
always talk
drive
about,
you to O'Hare and show you
you
the places
always,
where
no,
people are
I've been to
at the
O'Hare.
airport?
You always talk
Okay, you want
about,
me to do that? I'll take
you
you up
always,
there.
I don't need you to take me to O'Hare. I've been
Okay,
there. You always talk about, um, the border and the wall that Trump was
hmm
building or built,
Yeah, Trump
and
did a
he
better job
didn't.
on immigration,
He
man. He
didn't.
did a better
He
job. He
did
had it under
nothing on
control.
immigration. He
He
did
had it
nothing
under
on
control. He
immigration.
had it under
All he did
control.
was
I
to
didn't see
shut down the
wasn't any
asylum
buses.
system.
Wasn't any
Oh,
buses.
okay. So do you
Wasn't any
agree?
planes.
So do you agree, Charles? Do you agree that here it is? And this is exactly how Republicans win. They haven't won a legitimate election since
Man.
Eisenhower. So this is how they do. Here it is that Republicans and Democrats have finally come up with not comprehensive immigration, but they have come up with an agreement to deal with the border. And now you have
Mhm.
Republicans who are saying, "No, we can't do this.
Pure
No,
politics.
let's not
Pure
solve
politics.
it." No, it's not. That's Republicans. That's how
That's
Republicans
politics.
are.
What are
That's
Republicans? They're
how Republicans are.
politicians. Come on,
Republicans
Mark.
don't want to solve
That
problems.
makes
You
sense.
still can't speak to a single substantive policy that
Whatever.
Republicans have
Whatever.
provided. Not one.
Whatever.
But this is who you
Whatever.
wrap your arms around and think that
Whatever.
this is the
Mhm.
savior. But you
Thank
can't come
God.
up with a single policy. Not
Thank
one.
God. Okay. Thank God for the migrants on 79th and Essex who are cleaning up that small part of the South Side. They're
No,
cleaning up,
look,
getting up. Let
what
me
you're
finish, man. Let
missing,
me finish, man. Let me finish. They are cleaning up all the Harold
they're
chicken
doing more
boxes
than that.
and
They're
all the
doing more than
McDonald's
that.
wrappers and rib tip bones and everything else. They're cleaning up 79th and Essex, man. God bless them for that. I hope they're able to find jobs. And I have nothing against immigrants. I understand why they're doing it and why they want to come here. After all, everybody wants to come to America, even though it is, as some allege, a systemically racist country. You got people coming from all over the world, from the Congo, from Angola, from Mozambique. They're doing everything they can, selling everything they can to get to Mexico so that they can walk across the border. And because they know that this is the best place for a black man on the planet to be right now. Now, hopefully, Africa is getting itself together, no doubt. That's another story we should talk about.
Yeah, right.
Africa is getting itself together. They have totally turned against the United States in this Bush administration. I'm not, what is it? Biden administration.
you
Sorry,
said it
Biden.
right.
Bush, Biden, any of them.
No,
All of
you
them.
said it
But
right.
Africa right now is aligning. Africa is aligning with your
Yeah.
boy Putin, who you told said was
Okay.
trying to
All
conquer
right.
the world. But Africa is aligning with Putin right now. The United States right now has alienated itself by being the only country, big country, powerful country, aligning with Israel and the rest of the world. South Africa, at its lead, is turning against the United States, calling the United States, at least in rhetoric, if not in the court case, an accomplice or an accessory to genocide in Palestine. The world is turning against Joe Biden. This guy has screwed up American foreign policy in a way, man, he's shooting at people. He's getting our soldiers killed. He's financing 2-3 wars. Come on, man. Connect the dots.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
guy isn't
All
for
right.
you and me.
All right. All
He
right.
isn't. He
the-
isn't. Come
okay.
on, man.
Are you done with your delusion?
I'm done.
Okay. All right.
I start to rant. I get that.
Yeah.
I start
Yeah.
to rant because
Yeah,
I
you
want people
you
to
go off into
understand
a land of
to connect
delusion.
the dots, to
Yeah.
connect the dots, to see what's
Yeah.
going on in your world. Read a book, read a book, read a book.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
find out.
that would be fundamental for
Yeah,
people to really get the information. Then
God.
you can at least have the same set of facts for which you can discuss. But people have what they want to call their alternative facts, which are not facts at all, so that they can just spew all kinds of rhetoric that has no basis in truth. That's just unfortunate. That's unfortunate where we are. Which this guy who is going to end up paying through his boots because he thinks that he can just conduct himself any way that he wants to, and the roost is coming home to roost.
To
So
who? On who? On who?
Your presidential nominee, the guy that you bragged about. Yeah.
Trump. Man, I don't know if Trump. I don't know if Trump is going to make it because, man, they are pulling out all the stops on Trump, and they haven't stopped him.
No, he's put out all the stops on himself.
Let me say something. Let me say something. They are pulling out so many stops on Trump, whether it's civil courts, criminal courts, whether it's these ballot challenges, this denying democracy, anything to stop Trump. And what really concerns me is that none of this is working. Trump is moving along. He's winning. You got to say, in the Republican primary race, even you, Mark Wallace, have to admit he's winning.
Yeah, because the Republicans don't have any core. The Republicans don't have any core. Mark, of course, he's moving.
Let me finish. He's in danger. He's in danger. This country is not beyond.
Or he should be in danger.
Taking somebody out. What? Being shot?
He should be in danger.
Being killed? Being murdered?
Oh, please get out of it.
Are you saying that?
Come on. No, I'm not saying that.
That's what I'm saying. That's the danger I'm talking about.
Oh, come on. That's the danger that he's put other people, the danger that he has put other people's lives in.
The danger
that he has put other people's lives in by his rhetoric.
So you think he should be?
I didn't say that, Charles. Don't put words in my mouth.
Okay,
I said the danger that the danger. I am being clear. If you just let me say, you're the one who was talking about that, not me.
Okay, Mark. I don't know that Trump is going to make it until November. I don't care how many primaries.
What do you mean? What are you talking about? Make it.
Let me finish, please.
What are you talking about? Make it.
Make it to the election. He could be.
What do you mean make it? What do you mean make it?
Make it to the election.
What do you mean?
I said it. He won't make it. He could be in jail. He could be assassinated.
He's not going to be in jail.
He could be any number of things. Okay. I don't, but at the same by the same token,
he should be in jail, but he's not going to be.
Mark, Mark, you want me to just hang out? Do you? Because you won't let me.
Charles, listen, Charles. Okay. If that's what you want to do. If you want to do that, you do that. But don't give me that. We're having a conversation. You do it all the time. You do it all the time. When you stop doing it, I tell you what. I don't care about what you're saying. I don't care.
You won't let me make a point, Mark.
No, you're not going to make the point. You're not going to make the point. Hold on, Charles. You're not going to make the point by throwing something out there and then saying that I'm saying it. You're not going to make the point that way. Yes, you did.
You keep interrupting me. Mark, will you let me finish? I, at this point, do not believe that either of these candidates is a locked-in finish for next November. There could be Joe Biden, man, he could have, with his cognitive problems, with his age, with the fact that he's got a 32% approval rating, the party could dump him in a New York minute and go with someone else.
Okay, well, let's see if they do that.
Again, Mark,
let's see if they do that.
Mark, let me finish, man. Will you let me finish?
You going on and on and on and on.
I'm not going on and on and on. I'm trying to make my point. I only do 30 seconds. You're the two.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Mark,
no, you don't.
Mark, I'm saying that at this point, to get excited about these two guys, I think is a little premature because both these guys have some issues that could make them an uncandidate by November. And that's the point I'm making. So let's not focus so much on Trump. Biden, we have to focus on because he is the president. But Trump has got a lot of issues to overcome. Now, if it ever came down, I'll be honest with you. If it ever came down, if it does come down, listen to me closely, to Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, I'm with Trump every second of the way. Okay? Now, if it's Trump versus somebody else, I might have changed my mind, depending on who somebody else is. But if it's Biden as incompetent as he is against Trump, I look at the two records
Yeah,
and say,
well,
I'm with Trump. I'm with
yeah,
Trump
well,
in that case because Biden is screwing everything
somebody
up, man.
somebody who has performed as well as he has performed and gotten done that the things that he has gotten done. That's the kind of incompetency that I'd like to see. No president has been able to pass the kinds of legislation that he's passed that is going to do wonders and is doing wonders for our economy, for job growth, for unemployment, lowest black unemployment in the history, lowest unemployment for women in 70 years, lowest Latino employment in history. So no other president has been able to do that. So that kind of level of incompetency, I'm marching to the polls, and I will be marching to the streets hard, working for the reelection of Joe Biden. So if you want to elect a criminal, a rapist, a thief as Donald Trump, don't talk about, don't sit here and moralize about somebody else when you know the criminality and you know what kind of person this is, and you're still saying this is the person that I would support. I don't know. Have you read their plan? Have you read any part of Project 2025? Have you read any of it?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Are you finished?
I'm just asking you if you've read it. I'm not finished, but have you read it?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. You should go and read it. You should go and read it and see what you think. Why not? It's coming from the people that you support.
I don't want to.
You don't want to know the truth? You don't know what you don't want to know the truth about them?
I've seen 4 years of President Trump.
You don't want to know the truth about the Republicans.
I would rather go with Trump than Biden.
So you're not concerned. So you're not concerned
you ain't gonna
with
change
the
your mind on
agenda.
that.
I'm not going to try to change your mind. Charles, please believe me when I tell you I am in no attempt trying to change your mind. None whatsoever. Good. I don't care which way you think. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just asking you if you are interested in the party that you support, what their plans are. You're not interested. Is that what you're telling me?
The party I support?
The Republicans.
The candidate I support.
Well, but you support the party.
No, man, I will vote for Democrats.
That's who the party supports. That's who the party supports.
I want to vote for, but I won't vote for Joe Biden.
But you're voting. What you're voting for is their agenda. Well, it's going to be Donald Trump and it's going to be Joe Biden. So you're going to be voting for Donald Trump.
I'm not so sure of that.
Right? That's who it's going to be.
If it's Biden and Trump, I'm voting.
So you're going to be voting for them.
Definitely. If it's Biden and Trump.
Okay. So then you should go and read the plan that they have put out themselves called Project 2025.
Trump does
go
plans.
And read.
You know, you could find. Can I say something?
Yeah.
Can I say something? You can find as many Republicans who don't want Donald Trump, who will do anything they can to stop Donald Trump. You'll find a lot of Republicans who will want to stop Donald Trump. But by the same token, you will find a lot of people who were traditional Democrats like me who won't vote for Joe Biden. They won't go Joe Biden.
Yeah, right.
You find a lot of Democrats, particularly down south, and in the good old boys that white supremacists they talk about all the time.
Yeah,
they voted. A lot of them voted for Obama, but they got sick of the government. They got sick of falling behind economically. That they're looking for something else, somebody who can take on the establishment. If the establishment wants to indict and sue and do all this stuff to Donald Trump, he must be doing something right.
Yeah, right. Okay. So is that is that's your position that because the man was engaged in illegal activities, he's a criminal.
Illegal, you know that? What's he been convicted of? He hasn't been convicted of anything. I haven't heard that yet. Did you get?
Well, he's certainly been found liable of fraud in New York. He's going to be convicted. He's going to be convicted in Georgia.
In New York.
He's going to be convicted in the federal cases. He will be convicted.
Mark,
so
you two are clairvoyant, my brother.
Yeah, so I'm not clear. I'm not clairvoyant. I just pay attention. I just pay attention to it.
You just said that. I'm waiting to see. I don't even care if he is. If he's on the ballot against Joe Biden, I'm doing Trump.
I'm
Okay.
sure you are.
If he's
I'm
on
sure
the
you are.
ballot against
You're
Joe Biden,
hey, look,
I'm doing trouble.
Charles,
You know, they're
you
talking
you
this
you
guy, this guy.
you're going to be voting for Republicans. That's who they pay you to vote
No,
for.
no,
That's who
no.
they pay you to tout.
I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna vote
That's who
for
they pay you to
a
tout.
candidate and
So
support
you're
the
doing a great
candidate
job
that I
at
choose.
maintaining those talking points.
Thank you, my brother. I
Yeah,
appreciate you.
yeah.
I
I mean, you
appreciate you. Thank
listen,
you,
when
man.
people are paying
You know,
you
you're very
well, you
perceptive.
should do the
You're very
job.
perceptive, man. But I'll
Yeah.
vote. I'm sure that this fall I'll vote for some Democrats. I'm sure I will. I know I got a couple in mind right now. I know I'm going to vote for. But but I tell you, this Joe Biden, Donald Trump thing, Joe Biden has screwed up a lot of stuff in the United States, man. And I just cannot. I can't do it
Yeah.
again.
Okay.
And plus, he's 82 years old. He needs to go sit down. You know, they're talking about this guy, Joe
Well,
Manchin.
wait. You're talking about Donald Trump, who called called
Look,
Nancy Pelosi, Nikki Haley 4 times.
ever.
4
Man,
times.
look,
This guy
man,
is
look,
supposed to be so
Donald Trump,
cognitively strong.
Donald
Come
Trump
on,
is
this guy sit
cognitively
there. This guy
stronger than Joe
I
Biden.
called
Okay.
Nikki
I'm sorry.
Haley's name
Whatever.
4 times, talking
Absolutely.
about security.
Mhm.
She's in charge of security at
Mhm.
the state capitol,
had
at the
Nikki
Capitol.
Haley on the mind. He probably had Nikki
Yeah.
Haley on the mind, man. I'm
I
telling
don't
you, he
think
probably did.
listen.
He
Yeah.
probably did.
Okay.
And that's what he did. But I still think in my
Well, if he
judgment,
had
yours
Nikki,
is different. Yours is different. In my judgment, I think
Yeah.
he's cognitively stronger than Joe Biden. You know,
the
there's
guy's a
also talk.
complete
There's
buffoon.
also there's
He's a
also talk
complete
of this.
He's a
There's also
complete buffoon and completely unfit to hold an office for
You got it.
anything. That's what he
Okay,
is.
period. Full stop. This guy, Joe Manchin from
Absolutely.
West Virginia, has been making noise about getting in the race as an independent third-party
Yeah.
candidate.
Okay. Yeah.
Not clear who he might hurt if he gets in at this point, but he's a Democrat. But I don't think he's the kind of he's not a progressive Democrat, that's for sure. But he's talking about getting in the race. If he does, I'd love to hear what he's talking about. Kennedy appears to be fading in the biggest way. I don't think he's been able to get any money at this point because I don't hear about him at all anymore. You really have to go looking for whatever campaign he's putting on. But again, this guy, Joe Manchin, is
He's
talking
probably flying
about
out with the aliens that he believes in.
And the other guy, the California governor, the oily guy with the slick back hair, he's trying to keep his face and name out there because even he knows that Joe has got a lot of the actuarial tables aren't working for Joe, and he knows that, and he might want to. He's trying to keep his name out there, which I can appreciate. I'd never vote for him. I mean, I look at California and say, I don't want the rest of the country to look like California. But I mean, this thing is far from over. And there's also a lot of things that could happen on the world stage. I mean, we have this horrific foreign policy problem in the Middle East right now, where people are actually shooting at each other. Americans, of course, were killed in the past several days in over there. And the Houthis, the tribesmen, are firing at ships in the Red Sea. They basically effectively blockaded the Red Sea. It's a lot of stuff going on, which I think is going to affect the race for president. And Joe's got a full plate.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that I'm glad that Donald Trump is not in the seat to be managing these issues. Thank God for that. I am so grateful for that. I think
Joe's doing such a great job.
I think that the person who has done a good job at holding the international community together is right there doing the job. Joe Biden. Joe Biden.
He's holding the international community together.
Yeah. He's done a great job.
Justice is
He's certainly done. He's done a phenomenal job of that. He's done a phenomenal job. You know, he's done a phenomenal job of that. So.
You think so? I suppose it's a matter of opinion.
No, I think it's a matter of fact. Just look at the results.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at the results.
Look at the results. We
Yeah.
got shooting war. We got 30,000 people killed in Gaza. We got that. That's a great job. That's a great job.
That's not the
We're
president.
supplying the weapons. We're
That's not
supplying
the
the weapons
that's not
that
the
are killing the
president's
people in
fault.
Gaza.
That's not the president's fault.
Really? All he's
The
got to
that's
do is
the
call Netanyahu and say, "Hey, man, knock it
no
off."
no
That's all he's
no
got to do.
no
That's all he's
no.
got to
The
do.
president went there to talk
Mhm.
with Benjamin
Okay, man.
Netanyahu and tried to encourage
Okay.
him to go a different way. But Benjamin Netanyahu
I'm
was
not
looking
ignoring you.
for
I'm
an
reading
open door.
comments. I'm reading
He
comments,
was
man.
he
I'm
was
not.
looking for
I'm not.
an open door so that he can go and commit the kinds of atrocities that he is committing. And the people of Israel want him out, and he's doing all that he can to keep himself in position so that he too doesn't go to prison. And so he is slaughtering those people over there and the Palestinians under the disguise that he is protecting Israel. And the Israelis are not buying it. They
How
are
come
not
they let him
buying
continue to do it?
it. They are not buying it.
Why are they continuing to let him do
Well,
it?
your guess is as good as mine why he is able to continue to do what he is doing.
No,
And they
I think he's doing it
don't have a
because
mechanism.
I think he's doing it because the people of Israel want him to do it. I thought Israel was a democracy. I think at this point they want security, and he is telling them this is the only way we can do it, and they're giving him the benefit of the doubt. But he appears to be failing. He hasn't rescued any hostages. I mean, rescued any hostages. He's negotiated a trade for some, but he hasn't rescued any.
You're
And
talking about Benjamin Netanyahu?
I'm saying of Benjamin Netanyahu. He hasn't
He's not
rescued
interested
any
in he's not interested in that. You're missing the point.
You sound anti-Semitic or something. I
He's
don't know
not
what your problem
man,
is,
I'm
man.
not anti-Semitic.
If you're
I'm
gonna be,
anti
they're
Benjamin
saying that.
Netanyahu. I'm
I know,
anti
but
Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm
you're
not
saying that
anti-Semitic.
that
No,
Israel
no. Hold on,
doesn't have a
Charles.
right to defend
Hold on a
itself.
second. No.
What's wrong with you, man?
Back off, Charles.
Oh, man.
Don't listen.
I'm telling
I
you the
am
truth. Look,
I'm
man,
I'm
Israel
telling
has a
you,
right to defend itself, doesn't it?
Israel has a right to defend themselves. Benjamin Netanyahu is slaughtering the people of Palestine under the disguise that he is defending uh, Israel. And the Israeli people overwhelmingly are objecting to what he is doing. He's not interested in negotiating any type of peace. He's already said he's going back to where he was in 1971, where he is on record saying that there will never be a two-state solution. There's no need for it, in his own words. This is
Full
what
stop.
this guy is all about, period.
Full stop.
This has nothing to do with anti-Semitism.
So he's a dictator.
He's a murderer. You can call him whatever you want to, but he's a murderer. He's a murderer, slaughtering women and children for his Benjamin Netanyahu. That's what it is. It's in the name of Benjamin Netanyahu. He's certainly not doing it at the approval of the Israeli people. He's certainly not doing it at the approval of the Israeli people. Yes, they need to deal with Hamas, but this is a man who said that there is no need for a two-state solution. That means he's not even willing to go to the table to try to find a resolution. He just wants to continue to bomb the Palestinians because in his mind and his actions, they don't deserve to exist.
What do you think about those people who are demonstrating on behalf of the Palestinians?
The people who are here demonstrating?
People in this country and in other countries who are holding marches and rallies and such, condemning what the Israelis are doing and speaking out for the Palestinians.
Well, listen, if these are largely Palestinian people, right? And
there's a lot of people who aren't Palestinian. In fact, most of the people demonstrating are not Palestinians. I mean, they may trace their ancestry there. They may trace their ancestry to those countries, but they live in France. They live in the United States.
But these are people. These are people who they may be Americans, but they're Palestinian Americans. So
are they anti-Semitic? Yes or
Listen,
no?
I don't know who these people are, and I can't speak for them whether they're anti-Semitic. You
No,
ask
man,
me
I'm
what
being,
about them?
look, man,
But
hold on.
let me say this though. Let me say this. What they ought to be doing is they ought to be protesting Benjamin Netanyahu. That's who they should be protesting, because
They
this
are.
is the person who
They are.
solely wants to continue to do this without finding a solution.
Look, man.
And
All
the
right.
slaughter
Can I
of
say
these
something?
people is
Can I say,
disgusting.
can I say something?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Okay. I was being sarcastic. I think what you say is very true. I do think there's an element, a strong element within the Israeli population that supports what's going on, um, because they want to defend themselves. There are a lot of settlers in the north of Israel who want to return to their homes, but they, fearing Hezbollah, the group in Lebanon,
Yeah.
they left and went to the interior, and now they're living in hotels wherever they can find, but they had to abandon their homes. Um, but there is a support, a core of support for what Netanyahu is doing. That's how he became prime minister in the first place. He had support. What I find disturbing about this situation, if you do what you just did, speak out for the Palestinians, there is an element in the media and in this country that will call you anti Semitic for what you just said. And I find that abhorrent. I find that ridiculous to say what you just said, to somehow connect that with anti Semitism, or somehow that you're anti Jewish, or that I'm anti Jewish, or whatever, anti Semitic. No, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. What's going on over there is absolutely wrong. And Netanyahu has to wear the jacket because he's the prime minister. And many of the people in his government need to wear the jacket for it. And the South Africans certainly believe that. Most countries in the world believe that,
Mm-hmm.
except your boy Joe Biden,
No, that's
who
not
is
true.
giving this guy weapons, who is
That's not
giving the
true.
guy weapons, who won't get on the phone and say, okay, Ben
No,
BB. No,
that's not
listen,
true.
let me finish, man. Let me finish. All he's got to do, get on the phone and say, okay, BB, no more F-16s, no more F-35s, no more Abrams tanks, no more this, no more that. If you continue this, we are not going to support this kind of activity on the part of your government. Israel's a country of what, 9 million people? They can't do this without us. Joe is facilitating this. And that's why he must go. That's why they're calling him Genocide Joe, because this guy is a problem, an old, decrepit, demented problem who needs to go. And that's my point. That's
Yeah.
why I will
Okay.
never
Well,
vote for this person.
I disagree with your characterization of that. And the president certainly has reached out to Benjamin Netanyahu, has gone over there, and I think in the recent couple of weeks has made a phone call, and Benjamin Netanyahu went public, basically saying, "I'm going to do what I'm doing." So he is showing certainly no regard whatsoever. So that's why I believe that this is purely personally driven by him. Personally driven by him. I don't think that there is a large sect of the Israelis who agree with his position. There's a larger sect of people in the Israeli community that do not agree with his position. I think that the president have to find a way, and whoever else has to find a way. The people of Israel have to. I don't know. I don't understand their government makeup, or how they go about getting rid of somebody who they believe is, exacting war crimes. And I don't even understand how it was that he lost and then somehow got back into power. I don't understand that whole makeup over there. But I think that if they had the wherewithal, the ability to remove him as prime minister over there in Israel, I believe that they would have, because the overwhelming majority of the people in Israel don't support what he is doing in the way that he's going about doing it. They don't support it.
I haven't seen any numbers on that, but I do know that every 2,000-pound bomb that was dropped on Gaza, that has been dropped on Gaza, was either financed or built in the United States of America. And we can stop this immediately by telling him no more weapons. If you're using those weapons against civilians, you cannot have any more weapons. Joe can do that. But Joe, if he wakes up long enough, I don't know if he has the mental capacity to do it at this point, but he can do it. All it takes is a phone call, and this is all over. It's ended. But Joe is not doing it. And I understand he gets a lot of his money. He gets a lot of his
first
money
of all, it's
from,
not just
from,
it's
from
not
Mark,
just
let me,
about
you didn't let me finish. You didn't let me finish. The American Israeli Political Action Committee is funding most of the politicians, or at least the majority of the politicians, Republicans as well as Democrats, on Capitol Hill, and those politicians are afraid to vote or put the pressure on our government to end this. They could
well,
end it. They could do
well,
everything you want to see happen,
I want
but
to
they
hear.
won't do it
I,
because they're all tied up with the money game. The
well,
money
I
game
certainly.
is more important to them. And one thing I can say, one thing I'm not going to say it. I'm not, because I don't want to go back in the conversation. But the money game is in play here. The APAC, the American Israel Political Action Committee, sends money to most of the politicians on Capitol Hill, the legislators. That's why there's not been as much of an uproar as there needs to be, because the politicians are being paid
Hey,
by the Israeli Political Action Committee.
well, your conservative Republican Samuel Alito opened the floodgates.
Yeah, I know
Open
that.
the floodgates.
I know that.
Open
Look,
the
man, I know
floodgates.
that. I know that. I get that. But that's the reality of what's happening right
Well, we
now.
know that
And
that's the reality. I want to see. I want to see.
if he had some balls, he would step in and say, "Hey, we're going to stop this right now. This
I
isn't
think.
going to be the way
I
we
think.
root
I think
out
that.
Hamas. You're
Well,
not
I
going
think
to
that
kill
the.
women and
I think
children."
that the
He can
president.
do
I think
that.
the president.
But
I think that.
this president doesn't have it.
Well, I think
That's
the
where he
president.
needs
I
to
think he's
go.
trying to find. I think he's trying to find a pathway
Yeah,
to
he
doing
does.
this. He's trying
Off the
to find a
stage.
pathway
He's
to
trying
do
to
this.
pathway off the stage because he runs and looks like he doesn't know
Yeah.
where he is.
All right.
He can,
Okay.
a
Well,
pathway up
if
the
you
stairs at Airport
if
One.
you want to reduce the
Guys,
conversation to that,
I
fine.
will. I
Okay.
will. Because
But
the man is not up to it. He
the
ain't up to the
president,
job.
in your opinion, he's not. But
Well, my opinion.
I think that the president is up to the job. I think that he's got a good staff around him. I certainly do think that this floodgate of money that these big corporations just can write checks as large as they want to buy who they want to buy, and that is what has become it largely in government. Whoever can write the biggest check, that's who owns them. Hey, that's what Samuel Alito and the rest of the conservatives on the Supreme Court thought, that as Mitt Romney said, corporations are people too. I don't know how, but that's what they said, and that's where we find ourselves, because the voice of the people who don't have a big checkbook is just that, silence.
Hey man, I
All
want
right,
to thank Intellectual Radio for making it possible for you and I to get together on Monday night and talk about what's happening here in Chicago and Illinois, as well as what's happening around the world. Again, another good show, another good conversation. Gets heated at times, but hey, that's what happens in the real world, my brother.
well, that's what happens at your dinner table. But listen, I wanted to also mention today I went downtown. They had the second court hearing of the case of the city of Chicago versus El Paso Charter LLC, and they have now brought in all of those cases. There's 95 cases, 45 defendants, and the attorney who is representing those, because I want to know just who's paying him, who is high, because he's like he comes from a pretty decent firm, but this individual, I talked to him today. He was going to try to make it on, because I wanted to talk to him to find out what his position is and why he thinks that the city of Chicago does not have the right, as he puts it, to pass an ordinance to protect itself and to protect its citizen. So maybe we'll get him on in the next
Yeah,
week or so.
yeah, it's I think the bus companies are saying basically that how dare you tell us where we can go? I mean, you're restraining whatever interstate commerce or whatever. What do you mean we can't go to Chicago? Well, no, but you got migrants. I don't care who I got on my bus. That's a civil rights violation. I can't tell people they can't rent my bus. It's a thorny kind of
Well, it's a thorny kind
more
of situation.
complicated issue than what
Yeah,
Brandon Johnson says.
we're going to talk more about that next week, but it's much more complicated than somebody just going where they want to go. But you can't drive your car and illegally take somebody across state lines as a citizen. So
Really?
that we're going to talk
I
about
can't.
next week.
I can't.
No, you can't. It's
I
against the
can't
law.
you mean like the Mann Act, where I can't take a woman across state lines for whatever? What? No, man, I can.
Not against their will. Not against their will.
Not against their will, but the
Yeah.
thing is, it is in their will that they're doing it. I mean, people
Well,
agree.
no,
They've got
no,
papers that they sign. They want
no,
to come to Chicago.
no, not so.
They want to go to Denver. They want to go to New York. They want to go anywhere. They want to go someplace that's a sanctuary for them. And Illinois has held itself up as a sanctuary state. So
All right,
why
we'll
would
talk
the
more. We're
bus
going to talk
company
more
go there?
about that next week because
Hey,
we're
man,
out of time. All right.
I got
Okay.
something I need to say to you when we get off the air. Okay.
All right. Okay. We'll see you all next week. Same time, same place.